and the rollout of the different products. So, but I know specifically for MasterCard, they're doing some pretty intensive impact research. So I would think probably, as Ron said, within the next 5 years, we'll have a bit more real data to be able to analyze that kind of impact.
Great. No, I think it's evident to me that there are a lot of points of leverage in this conversation, and that from a policy perspective, we can talk about national security, in fact. From a return on investment perspective, we can say investing in youth is the wiser investment, although there's not quantitative evidence as of yet, and I'm sure at some point there'll be a randomized control trial to prove that. And I look forward to that happening one day. So with that, questions from the audience for the panel. And I would say this is not only a question to the panel, but to your peers. Ask your peers this question. Maybe it's a broad one. I will say this. Please state your name, your affiliation. Let's try and avoid just statements without questions, and let's keep it to one question if possible. Thank you.
My name is Zahirul Islam. I work for Straw Foundation. I'm from Bangladesh. I would like to ask a question to Chandula. You were referring that providing different initiatives in order to reach the youth entrepreneurs, providing financial access to them. And your last statement, you was talking about the investing in the stock market. I was particularly interested on that issue. I would like to know whether Hatu National Bank or any other MFIs in Sri Lanka providing financial services for investing youth to stock market. Because of investing in stock market needs special kind of skills, knowledge, and for analyzing some key issues, some key ratios, return on investment, and also earning per share, P ratio, something like that. So, and also needs awareness, special kind of awareness for investing in the stock market. So, I would like to ask you, how do you face these challenges? Thank you.
Yeah, I said we are in the process of developing a product which is focused on youth investment. Stock market is one we are looking at. It's not really throwing them to the pool without really equipping them. What we want to really do, we have our partner subsidiary, which is called fully owned. It's jointly owned by our bank, 50%, and another bank called Equity Finance, which is involved, is an investment arm of the bank, which is involved hugely on this area of business. So we want to really create awareness to the youth, the potential, and give them necessary awareness and education and build them towards that. That is one aspect, because young people today, we are not targeting the smaller group of people, youngest, but people who are come to just about 1 year before leaving the school, to educate them on the aspect of the various investment tools and opportunities. I was just telling one aspect about even buying an equipment, small equipment, like whether it's a lawn mower, whether it's something, that's also could be an investment. So then stock market also investment. I think it's, in Sri Lanka, it is very vibrant at the moment, and a lot of people are involved. So we want to really educate them and see the potential at that early stage to get involved in that. And I think you could probably create that kind of a, of course, as I agree with you, that has to be properly, bring the proper literacy on that aspect, and so I'm sure that we have the proper resources with us, because we want to partner with the investment bank arm and work toward this. And we will, of course, create a significant, because right now we have about nearly, as I said, close to 200 schools which we run across the country. We drive a financial literacy program continuously in the schools. This is another aspect we want to bring it to our young people through our schools program, bring education of what is happening in the way development in the financial sector. Right now we educate them, and we want to bring them and see when the youth are ready to move into that in a different way. We have different products are being line. I can't tell you now, but different products are being designed by us through various partnership with our associate companies. So that's one thing. But also, stock market probably one aspect, but I want to really make sure that there'll be various investment tools available for young people which could be affordable to them and also available to them and also accessible to them based on their strengths and skills and abilities and, maturity.
Yes, the lady in the...
Yeah, my name's Anita Pearce and I'm from Handicap International. I'd like to return to the point about youths and the effects of war, armed conflict, but also indeed I know within Indonesia heavily hit by natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, and indeed tsunami within Sri Lanka. My question for the panel is, with those implications come a great number of disabilities. Youths, you've mentioned, involved in the conflict, they would sustain gunshot wounds, and many resulting injuries become disability. So my question is, do you target youths with disabilities? And if so, how? And if not, why not?
Thank you. In our project, yes, we did target them, youth with disability. And how we approach them? We approach them through the youth club. So we establishing like a group of youth, like a peer group which they can discuss and share. And this is also part of how they can build their self-esteem and confidence. So do we mingle them with other youth group and then how we approach our financial approach. So yes, we did target them.
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, I mean, you are right. I think there's significant number of such probably youth in this country. And I think there are various organizations who are rehabilitating and conditioning them to probably be able to kind of economically be available and viable. So I think it is, you see, now, for instance, in our country, than probably 10 years ago, there is more focus on differently able people, creating access to the financial institutions and things like that. So I think, I must tell you, some of the banks even employ totally blind youth to count notes, and I think, I mean, that's something which probably many institutions will do, and I'm sure that if there is some organizations that drive this, I'm sure the financial institutions and the corporate entities would definitely create access to them.
Hold on, just the microphone, thank you.
I have a common question to the panel that what is the withdrawal behavior of this saver group?
Okay, let me answer, I'll leave to others. Now, we have in our country, young people can save from probably they are infant, and children, we in our schools program, children save who from year 1, probably age of certainly 7, 8 years, but until 18 they can't withdraw in this country. So they can only keep on saving. They can't withdraw unless exceptionally the child have some problem or sickness or parent have problem. So all those under exception, we release the funds. But otherwise, until 18, they can't withdraw a single cent from their account. But after 18, then their account become a teen account, and then there'll be more sort of independence given to that. But I don't know about the other part. Probably you can comment.
Actually, one of the findings that Haas Bank in Mongolia found when they went and they did their research is they have a similar product to what Chandala is mentioning, and they're called Future Millionaires, and it's a closed savings account. So the parents will open the savings account and deposit, and the youth won't be able to withdraw until they're 18 years old. So very similar to HNB. But what in the research they found that girls actually wanted access and they wanted to be able to deposit and withdraw on a regular basis. But what they've done is implemented a series of incentives to encourage these young girls to continue to save. They have an incentive program, so if they get to a certain level of savings, they'll win. One of the most popular incentives was a USB drive, a pink USB drive. And they also, and Mongolia is slightly different in terms of the ability to use mass media to promote and to advertise. And fortunately, media is very cheap in Mongolia, and they were able to actually put commercials on television, having these girls sitting in a cafe and talking about, oh, hey, let's go shopping. And then somebody is actually saying, you know, I think we should save that money, and we should go to Hasbank and make our deposits with our pink cards. So they want that freedom to be able to withdraw. But I think that probably what needs to happen is to put in process some mechanisms so that you're constantly encouraging them to save instead of withdrawing.
Right. Well, for Indonesia, we don't have any restriction for them to, they can withdraw any times. So basically what we do is, like Lara said, we give like incentive. For example, like if they can add more deposit, it means the chance to win a lottery is bigger. Or if you reach this amount of saving within several months, then you can get a t-shirt or a mug or something. So we really keep motivating them on to save. But by regulation, we don't have any strict restriction on that.
The gentleman in the blue shirt here in the second row.
I would like to ask the questions for Mr. Chandula. Then could you tell us what are the strategies to diversify the income generation in the youth, except the involvement of the stock markets or something? So what are the another strategies?
You see, the thing is two things. You have to make youth employable, and you have to create employment opportunities. Two things. I mean, you see, most of the youth, if you look at from the context of Sri Lanka, we have a high literacy rate, and then probably there is you need to bring a lot of corporate partnerships with corporate entities to make youth employable. And apart from the academic education, you need to bring the skills education. That is one of the critical things what we have seen that need to take place. Where a strategy of moving youth toward the agriculture sector, and most of the youth want to work in offices, and they have not really feel that there is money in agriculture. Even a tea smallholder, if you have about one small pot of land of tea, then you can make a certain amount of money. So that awareness has to be brought into the youth. One is as employment opportunities enhanced through corporate partnerships. The other one is youth entrepreneurship. Creating entrepreneurship, which I mentioned already. You see, there has to be the national level institutions that create skills development as an initial stage for youth to move into become entrepreneurs. So that's something which we are working with various institutions. Of course, in Sri Lanka, there is an organization called NAITA, but I mean, it's working in a very isolated way. But one of the things what we have done is we try to work with 3 or 4 corporate partners. As you probably know, I shared this earlier, the McDonald's, the gherkin, that the pickle that you have come from Sri Lanka. There are hundreds of thousands of farmers grow in eastern part of Sri Lanka. And we finance the small farmers, majority of them young people, and then Haley's buy back that. So that kind of partnerships are very important for this kind of creating youth entrepreneurship, not only through making them individual and entrepreneurs, but through mass communities, that is one aspect. So the importance of is facilitating that, you know, from the bank's point of view, the financial institute point of view, when youth see the idea, because they have ideas, they don't have collateral, they don't have a track record. So somebody to kind of, you know, buy that idea, share that vision, and support them, and that's exactly what we do in facilitating youth. You know.
I'm going to take a moderator's prerogative here and ask a question. Can an organization effectively provide financial products, credit, savings, along with providing the enterprise development, if you will, or the business development services? Can it do both, or does it need to be separated? Lara, you seem to have probably some ideas about that.
I think the vast majority of the examples that we've seen have been institutions, financial institutions who are partnering with other service providers, just in terms of cost saving, recognizing that serving youth is not necessarily going to be profitable in a short term. So there's a need to really look at your costs and make sure that your costs are manageable. There are a few organizations, exceptional organizations like BRAC, for example, who is able to do both, but they have the experience and they have a very strong history in providing educational services. So it wasn't something that they had to add. It was really building on what they were already doing. So I think one of, and I didn't get to cover it in my presentation, but one of our emerging guidelines is to really focus on what you do best as an institution. And any sort of additional service that you don't have the experience in or you don't have the funding to do is really something that you should explore via partnerships.
Like with Making Sense. Gentleman in the second row, blue shirt.
I'm Nimal Fernando, Inclusive Finance International. My question is for all the panelists that one of the major issues in anything that we do is scaling up. How do we do that? So in order to do that, we need evidence. Evidence-based policies are the most effective way to come up with effective tools and measures. Last year, I was looking for microfinance institutions serving youth, and I could find data only from Indonesia, exact percentages of within the microfinance communities. My question is, to what extent that any of you have initiatives to improve the availability of data on access to financial services of the youth in the existing institutions, including commercial banks providing these services and niche market microfinance players and community-based or other type of financial institutions?
Yeah, I think probably I'll ask you to speak, but let me say a comment here. It's absolutely correct what you say about the impact assessment and also relevant data. One of the things, when we designing this conference, I mean, we never had this youth focus in Asia Microfinance. We had 2 occasions previously done, and I insisted that we focus on youth at this conference, and we brought this thing. I'm very happy that we through this, actually, we can create awareness about it. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't have that information, leave alone in youth, and I was telling even recently on the SME side, there is no not really relevant information, impact assessment. In fact, what is the contribution microfinance industry in Sri Lanka and SME industries to the national economy? All that information is, is not available, and I think it's time that various stakeholders work toward that from the Sri Lankan context.
Okay, thank you. So Nimal, basically in Indonesia we try to collect that kind of data information through our Indonesia Microfinance Association. We practically just identify, okay, how many percentage of youth you're serving in your portfolio, that kind of examples. And we would like to more intense in that data collection, because we know that it's important for us also to promote about the program, also lesson learned, either it's success or fail, we'd like to share with everyone. So we will do like a quarter, what we call baseline survey, and I think we will hope that everything will be online soon, and we could share with anybody who interested with this. So we're very open.
Is there an opportunity for microfinance associations to play a role in that question and sort of
Definitely.
saying,
Yes.
what can we do about gathering that data? And then there's also there potentially an opportunity to include that data in the mixed market.
Yes, actually, I think all the network already has the data. It's just how you take away the data specifically for youth. You just have one additional information you need from the MFI, and it's very easy for them just to include, because they have a sophisticated database mostly. If they could submit a report to mix, most likely they could submit the report for this youth information portfolio.
Yeah, and I know that making sense has, that's been one of my goals, is to really find more quantitative information and data. And as we go, when we talk to Chandra and we talk to some of these more pioneering institutions, we find that really what made their decision was more the idea that as they cultivate, if they start to cultivate young clients from an early age, then they're more than likely going to become profitable over time. And so as long as you make that investment early, you treat them well, you give them products and services that are appropriate for their life stages, then they're most likely going to be a long-term client and thus profitable. But at the same time, I think, collecting that data, one step, and it's not necessarily youth-focused, but Glenn Wesley just put out a new paper called The Business Case for Small Savings, where he did some very in-depth analysis of Centenary Bank in Uganda and Adopam Bank in Dominican Republic. And it was a very, very intensive study. It took a great deal of work in getting the data. It's very difficult to track that kind of information over time. A lot of times, clients don't use that unique identifying number, like a social security number that we use in the US. A lot of times those identifying numbers change over time, so it's very difficult to measure a client's performance over time. But at the same time, they were able to get some really good data and very positive data for investing in small savings. They found that the small savings themselves weren't necessarily profitable, but by cross-selling other products, they actually found that there was, I think, something like a 400% return in Centenary and 1,000% return with Banco Adopam. So I think, when you look on the corporate side, companies may have products or services that aren't necessarily in themselves profitable, but in the broader scheme of their product offering, they're keeping their clients happy and keeping their clients accessing other more profitable services. So in that sense, there is a business case, and as I move forward and I'm looking to partner with institutions. If you do have a good data set, I would love to work with you.
That's an advertisement for Citi. I'm going to jump in and say, many of you may know actually that Citi Bank and the city of San Francisco just opened a citywide savings program for essentially every child in the city of San Francisco. Initially, that's not going to be profitable, but certainly it's a long-term return on investment that the bank recognizes. So we'll get you some data from that, certainly. Gentleman in the white shirt.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Hasita Vijayasundara from GTZ Sri Lanka. My question goes to Lara. I have seen in this handout which you have distributed with Yes Link, your campaign, that your core element of intervention is to build capacities in youth education. And I have seen in the back page also you have some courses and event with some of the partner organizations. Mm-hmm. So I just want to find it out how it works. Do you, it's been donor funded, or do you need a local partner to be funded, or maybe it's combi finance or co-finance, and how in other countries it's work? And I'm just thinking on the possibility of like why not in Sri Lanka to have this sort of event. So how do you have this in other countries? Just if you can elaborate on how the funding mechanism and how it works. Thank you.
Sure. We do have donor funding, fortunately, from MasterCard Foundation to disseminate our materials, and my goal really is to really expand our dissemination to the region, to the Asia region, and really focus on partnering with local, could be national or regional level networks or training institutions, so that we can really get our materials to as many institutions, as many individuals as possible. So there is a possibility to do a lot of cost sharing within this year and next year. We do have the opportunity to provide our training materials at a very low cost.
The lady here in the Oh, we'll take the lady in the back, and then we'll take the lady here in the middle. Sorry. She's got the mics.
My name is Jennifer Denemy, and I work for MEDA. I manage our youth and financial services programming, and I work mostly in North Africa and Central Asia. But one of the things that's really struck me with the three presentations is how similar the things that youth say they want, regardless of where they are. And part of the specificity of products is obviously in delivery and marketing and using local strengths and contexts. But partly going back to the question about how do we share information, also how do we share market research information? How do we share information on what youth want and on how we've successfully met those needs with financial products, with different practitioners? Because I think as Lara's found, trying to gather information, it's been a real, there's a lack of information out there and there's a lack of ways to share it. So I would maybe ask, how can we do that better, and how can we share ways that we're successfully meeting youth financial needs with each other, with other practitioners and implementers?
Well, I think that's a plug for our website and for our conference that we do every year. But I think there needs to be a broader effort across the board. And fortunately, we were able to put this panel together here at Banking with the Poor conference. Last week, I was at the IDB meetings in South America, doing very much the same thing. It's really trying to build awareness and generate that interest. And I think, fortunately, we have some funding to be able to generate things like case studies. We have several case studies on lessons learned from our different partners in working in youth inclusive financial services. But I think, across the board, research organizations could be spending more time in looking at this topic. And fortunately, we have funding to be able to do that. But I think at a broader level, it should be happening more on a regional basis, and I hope that more conferences, as we move forward, more of these opportunities for practitioners to come together and to learn, that we'll be able to generate more lessons learned and share that information.
One thing I would like to add to that is, lot depends on the demand and the supply. If there are many institutions who are scaled down to focus on youth, create access, and obviously the demand is there, and then probably there will be people. Otherwise, if somebody is trying to do research and if there is no demand, I think it's going to be waste of resources. So I think if there are more microfinance institutions, banks who really want to have the vision or the drive towards creating, then there's obviously they would require this research, this data, all that. And then there would be other people who supply this, can emerge and design various mechanisms and ways of doing it and deliver it to those organizations.
That's a good point. Last question.
Okay. This question is addressed to any of the three panelists. Entrepreneurship is a mindset. So what I would like to find out is if there is an attempt or a plan from any of the panelists to work with public or private schools and to try to integrate entrepreneurial concepts in the academic curriculum, more than what Mr. Chandula has mentioned, more than the action projects that's now currently going on.
Okay, at least in our project in Indonesia, we have a partnership with Junior Achievement for financial education and entrepreneurship in junior high and senior high school. And this is all for the public and also private school. So we partnership with both. We select 5 schools in Central Java in order to able to do that. So we did have that kind of approach in Indonesia.
I think this is not much happening. I mean, from the point of view of Sri Lanka, we have a kind of academic kind of level education. As a subject, entrepreneurship development is not really moved into the schools. But I think there is a greater kind of desire and also commitment to bring skills level development and subjects to drive young people, particularly youth, and who are unable to scale up in their education, to channel them toward the skills development institutions, different, whether it's agriculture, whether technical, whether it's light engineering. Also, there is, this as a subject is essentially need to go to the schools, as you said. I think I see that need. and this has to be spoken and create a demand to the respective government and the people who drive this education at national level.
I want to close with that last question, but I also want to give the panelists an opportunity to do a 15-second elevator pitch. That if there's one thing that you all remember from this panel, from this session, it will be this. So Lara, Franz, Chandula, in that order, and then after that we can close.
15 seconds.
15 to 30 seconds. An impactful statement.
Wow.
Obviously on your view around youth entrepreneurship, not, you know.
Well, I think what I would like you to take away from this is the impetus to go back to your institutions and do a little bit of research. It doesn't take a lot if you have that data to work with to look specifically at the young people that you're already serving and really understand that segment better. What are their needs? How do they differ? And what do you need to do as an institution to better serve them?
Okay. This is something to motivate you. Within a couple of years, I think the funding will be paused for youth. So you should wait between 3 to 5 years, and all the donors, I think, will go for youth. I think that's come from my point of view. And second, you cannot do everything by yourself. You need partnership. You need people who are good in that, then you cannot do everything by yourself. So learning from each other, I think I agree with that. We should sharing all what we have, and I think this will, ultimately will benefit all the stakeholders in this kind of activities.
Yeah, except probably Africa, rest of the part of the world is a huge aging population. Unless all the stakeholders take an very critical and timely initiatives to empower the youth today, the aging population, adults, their future is at stake.
Excellent. I think that was helpful. I want to thank the audience for their engagement. Really great questions. I know there are a lot more. I would suggest, without trampling over anybody, come up, engage with the panelists, engage with yourselves, and I want to thank the panelists for their preparation and really great conversation. Thank you all.